This video is about fractional coefficients. So we're looking at systems of equations and wanting to solve them, but what if they have fractions as their coefficients? So this will definitely help you in the lesson that follows. So let's go over some examples. All right, so the first example is 2/3 x minus 1/2 y equals 3. And then 1/2 x plus y equals 5. So our first step, and this one, some of them will ask you just what is the equivalent system, and some will actually just ask you to solve them. So in this case, they're asking what is the equivalent system. So what does that mean? Well, we want to be able to change this in such a way that we can kind of eliminate our fractions. So let's look at that top equation, 2/3 x minus 1/2 y equals 3. In this case, we want to look at the denominators. So our denominators in that one are 3, 2, and 1, right? 3 over 1 is the same as 3. And we want to know what is the common denominator there. In this case, it would be 6, because 3 can go into 6 and 2 can go into 6. So what we want to do is multiply this one by 6. And that means what we're going to multiply each term by that 6. Okay, let's look at the bottom one real quick. Same thing. So look at our denominators. We have a 2, a 1, and a 1. So we're going to multiply this one by 2. And again, that's to everything. So in the top one, let's take a look. So you might need some scratch paper to do this. But the first part, we have 6 over 1 times 2/3. And remember, we can write any whole number as a fraction by putting it over 1. The other thing is that when we're multiplying fractions, we multiply straight across. So 6 times 2 is 12, 1 times 3 is 3, and then 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that first one, we're going to have 4x. Okay. Now we're going to multiply the second term. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So again, we have 6 over 1 times 1/2. Multiply straight across, we get 6 over 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we have minus 3y. And then for the last part, there isn't a fraction there, so we just do 6 times 3, and that gives us 18. Same process for the second equation. So we have 2 times 1/2 gives us 2 over 2, which is 1x, or just x. Then we have 2 times 1y. We don't have any fractions there, so we can just multiply. Gives us 2y. And no fraction on the last one, so 2 times 5 is 10. So when it says what is an equivalent system, this would be our answer. And notice that looks much easier to work with if we had to continue on and solve that. All right, let's look at another example. We can do the same thing with decimals. So this example involves decimals. So 0.01x minus 0.3y equals 1. And then we have y equals 0.1x minus 2. So we can definitely work with decimals just like we can work with fractions, but sometimes we want to make it easier on ourselves and make it look a little different, so we can don't have to worry about decimals or fractions and those details in those. So how do I make an equivalent equation here? Well, in looking at decimals, I have to look at where is the furthest place value in each one. So the first term we have 0.01, and then the second one we have 0.3. Now, 0.01, remember that's the hundredths place. 0.3 is in the tenths place. So hundredths is bigger than tenths. So I need to multiply this top one by 100 so that I make sure I get rid of all of the decimals. Now, for the bottom one, the only decimal I have is this 0.1, which is in the tenths place. So I multiply the bottom one by 10. Now, what does that look like? In this case, you can use a calculator. So 100 times 0.01 is 1x. And then 0.3 times 100 is 30y. And then 1 times 100 is 100. And the second one, y times 10 is 10y. 10 times 0.1 is 1x. And then 2 times 10 is 20. So this would be the equivalent system. Now, what if we needed to go further and actually find the solution? So this is where we use our skills that we've seen in previous lessons in either using substitution or elimination. Either one, totally fine. I'm going to look at the top one right here, and I'm going to solve it for x. So I'm going to move the 30y over. So I would add 30y to both sides, so that the top equation becomes x equals 100 plus 30y. And then that way I could substitute all of this in for x into the second one. So let me erase some of this to give ourselves some room. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this equation here so that I replace the x with 100 plus 30y. So 10y equals, instead of x, I'm going to put 100 plus 30y minus 20. And now I only have one variable in there, so that enables me to be able to solve this. So let's go ahead. First, let's combine like terms. So we have 10y. 100 minus 20 is 80. Then our next step is to, since I have a y term on the left, I'm going to move the y term on the right over there. 10 minus 30 is a negative 20y. And I have 80 on the right because that's 0. And then last but not least, we need to divide by negative 20. And so 80 divided by a negative 20 gives us negative 4. Now, are we done? No, because we need to find out what x is equal to. So remember, back when we rearranged this, we said x was the same as 100 minus 30y. And so we can plug in our y value in there right here. So we're going to plug in the negative 4. So we have x equals 100 minus 30 times a negative 4. So multiplication first, 30 times a negative 4 gives us negative 120. So we have 100 minus a negative 120. Two negatives become positive, so we're going to add those. So 100 plus 120 means x equals 220, sorry. So there is our answer, 220 and negative 4. That's it for this video. So now make sure to call me and we can chat about this video and answer any questions that you have, but you'll use this information to help you along with the lesson that follows. Have a great day.